Hey everyone, this is Sportsman Periente, and after a championship weekend that included crazy weather, backup quarterbacks, some fumbles, and a crazy back and forth championship game on the NFC side, we are now down to the final two. And in an odd twist of fate, Super Bowl 60 will be a rematch from Super Bowl 49. It will be the New England Patriots representing the AFC and the Seattle Seahawks representing the NFC. And I'm sure Seahawks fans don't need me to remind them of what happened at the end of Super Bowl 49, so we're not going to discuss that here. Don't worry. We are going to talk about, though, the upcoming game this Sunday, and that is Super Bowl 60. So that being said, let's jump right in, shall we? So, how did we get here? Well, the Seahawks last year won 10 games, which was good. They did not make the playoffs. And Mike Macdonald, in his second year, and the general manager decided, you know what, Geno Smith, it's not working. We need to get someone else in the quarterback room. So the Seahawks gave $100 million to Sam Darnold. A wise investment because Sam Darnold, in spite of all that we've heard about, Sam Darnold, look at how he played at the end of last year with Minnesota, choked in the final regular season game when they could have gotten the 1 seed, choked in the playoff game against the Rams. He can never win the big one. He always will make terrible interceptions and all that. Well, that didn't happen in this postseason, but Darnold made the throws he had to beat the 49ers. And then last week, when Matthew Stafford was carving up the Seahawks defense, Sam Darnold matched him play for play, throw for throw, and he's honestly the main reason why the Seahawks are in the Super Bowl. If Darnold doesn't play like he did, Seahawks don't win that game. So, a wise investment by the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seahawks, as we saw last year when Mike Macdonald came in, that Seahawks defense is a top 5 defense at that. It can generate pressure. Their secondary is very good. They know what they're doing. They can make life difficult for quarterbacks, as we saw against San Francisco, as we've seen most of the year. Actually, let's pull up the information. In the regular season, all 17 games, the Seahawks defensively, Seahawks were the number 1 team in terms of points allowed. They only give up about 17 points per game, 17.2. First in total yards, 47 sacks, 18 interceptions. So they are a top defense. I don't think maybe as good as the Texans. I thought they had the best defense in the league, my personal opinion. But the Seahawks have a legitimate top maybe 3 defense, and they will make life difficult for anyone who faces them. Now, that being said, on the other side of the coin, the Seahawks offensively, Darnold is not he didn't throw for 40 touchdowns this season. He didn't do that. But he is able to get the ball down the field to his playmakers. Jackson Smith and Jigba this year, over 1,700 yards receiving. He has become a superstar in the National Football League. You have Cooper Kupp. You have A.J. Barner, who's made some big catches. They don't have Zach Charbonnet, their number 2 running back, due to a torn ACL he suffered against the Niners in the divisional round. So the Seahawks don't have their 1-2 rushing attack with Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet that they relied on for most of the year. But since Charbonnet has gone down, Kenneth Walker is averaging about 90 yards rushing per game, and they can utilize him in the passing game. So the Seahawks do have the ability to generate big plays, which they'll have to do against New England in order to really put some pressure on New England to put up points. Now, that being said, let's turn the focus to the New England Patriots. Last year, 3-14. So they decided to fire Gerard Mayo and bring in Mike Vrabel, who the Titans fired for reasons I still don't know why they fired him. They also let A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry walk, so I don't know what to say about that, but that's their problem. Mike Vrabel was hired by New England. They saw a big step up in their second-year quarterback, Drake May. They won 14 games. The schedule maybe wasn't the strongest, but you play your schedule and you gotta win games, which is what they did. And they took care of business in the wild card round, defeating the Chargers 16-3. Then they beat the Houston Texans 28-16 in a game where we thought the weather was absolutely ridiculous. But that was only a precursor. That was only a precursor in terms of the weather for what came next week against the Denver Broncos, when the second half of that game turned into the Snow Globe Bowl, or whatever people want to call that. And New England won 10-7 in a game where Bo Nix obviously did not play because he broke his ankle against Buffalo. The Broncos also did not have their starting running back for the season, J.K. Dobbins, because of a torn ACL. They had two of their receivers not play, and Jared Stidham was starting. So, yeah. Now, that being said, New England defensively is an absolute juggernaut. Now, they've got they've got a secondary in Christian Gonzalez, who is one of the better defensive players in the league. You have a front line in New England that can really get after the quarterback, as we saw against the Chargers and against the Texans. I mean, the New England defensive front absolutely took over those games and made life an absolute hell for Justin Herbert and C.J. Stroud. And Jared Stidham can verify that as well, because the Broncos for basically 3 quarters had no first downs, or maybe 2 first downs after the first quarter. So that New England defense is an absolute monster, as we've seen throughout this postseason. And offensively, New England has some weapons. You have Stephon Diggs, who maybe is not the deep threat he once was, but can still make catches down the field or play the slot. You have Kayshon Boutte, who's really emerged as a deep threat this year. You have Demario Douglas, who can still make an impact on games. They have a tight end room in Hunter Henry, who's made some big plays this year. They've got other weapons in Ramondre Stevenson, who's great for short yardage situations, and you've got a home run threat in Trayvon Henderson, who I believe is in his second year. No, I beg your pardon, this is Trayvon Henderson's rookie year, my apologies. So a first year back. Kind of settled into that backup role with Stevenson, but he can make some big 40, 50-yard runs if you're not careful. And Mike Vrabel has changed the culture there. You can't question his coaching skills, because he has turned that team around completely. Now, that being said, what are the concerns going into this game? And what concerns me the most with, I would say, New England in this game is their offense. Because we've seen Seattle this year, and we've heard all the criticisms with Sam Darnold and all that, but the Seahawks can generate deep plays down the field, as we saw them do against the Rams in the championship game and against the 49ers. And also, the special teams of Seattle cannot be ignored either. You have Rashid Shaheed, who they acquired in a trade with the Saints. He's made some big plays in the postseason. He had that huge kickoff return touchdown to open the divisional round against the 49ers that really, as soon as that game started, boom, goes down the field, touchdown, and you felt like, okay, momentum's with Seattle, they're in control. He also had a big catch on the opening drive against the Rams in the championship game. So he's starting to maybe become that number 2 threat in the Seattle passing game to generate big plays and maybe take some pressure off Njigba. So now it's not like, oh, we can double team Njigba, Darnold's going to have nobody to throw the ball to. Well, you have Shaheed, who can also, like Njigba, get down the field, put some pressure on the cornerbacks. And you have Cooper Kupp and A.J. Barner, who can go after the short field and maybe, move the sticks and so on and so forth. And the reason I'm concerned about New England keeping up with Seattle is this. Let's look at New England in their playoff games. Against the Chargers, the Patriots only put up 16 points. Now we fast forward to the divisional round against Houston. C.J. Stroud was basically throwing turnovers like candy. I don't know. I think Stroud threw 4 interceptions. Maybe it was 5. I don't know. I lost track. It was that bad. Woody Marks had a turnover and all that. Basically, the Texans had, I think, 6 turnovers in that game, and the Patriots only got, I think, maybe 6 points off those turnovers. And really taking away the pick 6 that New England got in that game, offensively, the Patriots only put up 21 points. And Drake May also had, I think, an interception in that game. It was on a Hail Mary at the end of the half. And he lost a fumble. He also lost a fumble the week before against the Chargers. And then you go into the Denver game, in the AFC title game. Other than the fumble by Stidham, which gave the Patriots the ball, I think, within the red zone, and then Drake May ran it in for a touchdown, New England only put up 10 points. And at numerous times in that game, granted, in the second half, the weather was an absolute nightmare, and that was kind of a reason for that. In the first half, New England was not really moving the ball that well either. There were 2 missed field goals by New England's kicker, granted. One was, I think, a 56-yarder. And then he also missed one in the snow, so I'm not going to fault him for that. But in 3 playoff games, the Patriots have only scored, their offense has only put up 47 points, which comes out to about maybe 17 points per game, give or take. That's not enough, I think, to beat Seattle. I don't think New England can only put up 17 points. They're going to have to score, in my view, at least 21, 24 points to beat Seattle, because I think Seattle can generate enough plays down the field to really put pressure on New England. And if you look at New England, as I said before, against the Chargers O-line was decimated by injuries. I think they were down 2 starters. And then if you go to the Texans game, Nico Collins did not play in that game because of a concussion he suffered against Pittsburgh in the wild card round. Dalton Schultz got hurt, I believe, in the first half of that game. He didn't come back. So Stroud was down 2 of his main weapons in that game. But the Broncos did not have Bo Nix because of the broken ankle he suffered against Buffalo. They were missing little Jordan Humphrey, I believe. He had to come out of that game due to injury. I mean, the Broncos had quite a few injuries that they were dealing with as well. So everyone, when they talk about New England, oh, their defense is phenomenal. Their defense is very good. But we also can't ignore the fact that there were a lot of things that happened that certainly made their life a little easier to defend. And the fact that right now it appears the Seahawks are fully healthy. Darnold, the oblique injury seems to be getting better. He had an extra week now to recover. I think it's going to be very hard for New England to hold Seattle to, I would say, 10 points, for instance. I don't think New England defensively can hold them down like they did Houston and Denver. I think the Seahawks will likely get at least 21, 27 points in this game because I think offensively they can get the ball down the field. And their running game, I think if they can get Kenneth Walker at least, if he can get between 50, 60 yards in that game and take some pressure off Sam, it's going to open things up in the play action game for Njigba, for Rashid Shaheed, maybe for A.J. Barner, Cooper Kupp. If the Seahawks can get 24 points, I don't know if New England offensively can match them because we've seen New England really struggle in the postseason against some very good defenses. The Denver game, I mean, New England really couldn't do much against the Denver defense, which also is, I would say, a top 10 defense in the league. Seattle has arguably, other than Houston, this might be the best defense the Patriots have faced all year. And it's going to be very hard, I think, for Drake May to really generate points and limit the turnovers because Mike McDonald, we've seen him go after quarterbacks this whole season and even last year. It's hard to put up a lot of points against Seattle. And I don't think the way New England is playing offense right now, I don't think they have enough to keep up with Seattle in that sense. And if you factor in the D-line that Seattle has, they've generated over nearly 50 sacks this season. New England's O-line is good, but Drake May has been getting pressure a lot in the games against Houston. He was under pressure a lot. I think he was sacked 3 or 4 times. And against the Broncos, I believe May was sacked roughly the same amount. The Seahawks are going to come after him, and that O-line has to be able to protect him. Otherwise, May is going to have no time to get the ball to Stephon Diggs or Booty or Hunter Henry. New England has not really, their running game hasn't gone off yet in the postseason, and they need that to go off. I mean, I think Trevion Henderson in the last game against Denver, he had 3 carries for 5 yards. Against the Texans, 12 for 25. And against the Chargers, he had 9 carries for 27. That's not going to get the job done. And if we look at Ramondre Stevenson, let's see if we can pull that up. Now, Stevenson had 53 yards rushing against the Chargers. He did have 70 yards against the Texans, and as that game went on, he was able to really, take over that game and really milk the clock and get some first downs. He had 16 carries for 70 against the Texans. But last week he had 25 carries for 71 yards. That's barely 3 yards a carry. He needs to have a big game to take some pressure off Drake May. And the Seahawks, it's hard to run on them. The Seahawks this year have not given up. No running back has run for more than 100 yards against Seattle in the 2025-26 season. So I think it's going to come down to Drake May making plays, and I don't know, based on what I've seen this postseason, I don't know if he can do that on his own against this defense. So, in my opinion, I think Seattle is going to win this game, and truthfully, I think they'll be by more than 1 possession. So, that being said, what is my prediction for Super Bowl 60? I believe that the Seahawks are going to get some revenge from Super Bowl 49, and I believe the Seahawks and Sam Darnold will finally win the big one. So my prediction for Super Bowl 60 is Seattle 27, New England 13. So that's my opinion on the game. And another thing that I forgot to mention, I'll do it quickly. If we look at not just the special teams and Rashid Shaheed and what he can do, the Seahawks have a kicker in Jason Myers who has a pretty big leg, and he can make some 50, 60-yard field goals. And New England's kicker, he's had his issues at times with field goals. I think he's only had one field goal this year over 50 yards that he made. He's missed several others. So the kicking game also, in addition to the defense of Seattle being better and their offense having more weapons, their kicking game also can maybe steal some points. Yeah, I think it's Seattle's game to lose, and I believe the Seahawks will be world champions after Super Bowl Sunday. So again, that's my take. Please continue to subscribe to my channel, Sportsman Pariente. And everyone, let's enjoy the game, and may the odds for both the Seahawks and Patriots, may the odds be ever in your favor.